The Legend of Zelda is easily one of the most popular game series of all time. Looking over its library, you'll find critically acclaimed hit after critically acclaimed hit, and the series as well as its main trio have become synonymous with Nintendo as a whole. But... oh, I'm gonna get crucified for this. I am going to get crucified for this. I have... we'll say really struggled to be a Zelda fan. I love Breath of the Wild, but I tried Ocarina of Time 3D and didn't really like it, and then I tried Majora's Mask 3D and didn't like it, and I thought Link Between Worlds was decent. I've always loved the worlds and the stories, but there's something about the gameplay of this series that has just never clicked with me. I honestly think at some point I really need to go in depth and try to figure out exactly why it is that it never works for me. So today I'll be trying out Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Released in 1987 for the Famicom and almost 2 years later for the NES, the original sequel to The Legend of Zelda was critically panned and quickly became the most hated game in the Zelda franchise. Or not. Okay, I just have to ask, did I get, for lack of a better term, Mandela affected here? I could have sworn people have always hated this game, and that's honestly a pretty large part of why I even wanted to try it. I was kind of thinking, hey, if I can't get down with the entries people love, maybe I can get down with the one they don't. But I guess that whole thought process was based in a fallacy. I mean, my calculated average review of 7.5 out of 10 isn't the solid 9 or 10 the series has a tendency to pull, but that's certainly not a bad score. The point is, I was really surprised to see that it was received that well. The gameplay is honestly the most interesting aspect of this game for a few reasons. The first is that it's simultaneously massively different from the first game, while also not being that different at all. You still roam and explore a large open map finding secrets and killing monsters, but now the map leads you to smaller side-scrolling levels where all the action happens. The second reason is that the closest we really have to this style in any other Zelda game is, well, these, and that's not a joke. While Zelda's adventure is very obviously based off of the first game, this one is clearly the inspiration for Wand of Gamelon and Faces of Evil. The only real difference gameplay-wise, aside from some things those games added, is that you just pick your location on a map rather than having to walk there. And you know, I suppose if there was a reason I could understand for them ditching this formula, it's that. Now, I said I like the stories in these games, but this one is kinda wild, so hold on tight. A few years after Ganon is killed in Zelda 1, Link suddenly has a mark that looks like the Triforce appear on the back of his hand. When he asks Impa about this, she tells him that Zelda's father, the King of Hyrule, possessed a third piece of the Triforce of Courage, and went about hiding it to keep it away from evil, only telling Zelda its location. When her brother, the Prince, found out about this, he attempted to use a magician's power to make her cough it up. Instead, this power killed the magician who used it and sent Zelda into a coma. Hold on. It gets even better. The only way Link can possibly wake Zelda from her sleep is to track down the Triforce of Courage and reunite it with the other pieces, so Impa gives him 6 crystals that can be used to open the seal on the Great Palace where it's hidden. Things won't be easy for him though, as Ganon's minions once again begin to attack in hopes of killing Link because they want to pour his blood onto Ganon's ashes and bring him back to life. Why did nobody tell me how f***ing metal this game is? But it is an NES game, so once your quest is contextualized, there's not much left to do other than just play it out. Just explore the many areas packed into this surprisingly expansive map by NES standards and place one of your 6 crystals in each palace before taking on the Great Palace. We've got the Maze Palace, the Palace on the Sea, the Island Palace, Parappa Palace, Three-Eyed Rock Palace, and Midoro Palace. The word palace is now dead to me. You also come across many towns where you can grab some items and upgrades, have sex, catch your breath, but yeah, mostly just have sex, no one tell Zelda please. One thing I find interesting is that, if I'm not mistaken, this is the only main series Zelda game that has experience points and leveling up in it. The reason I find this so interesting is not only because I obviously didn't know that, but also because it fits into the gameplay so perfectly that I'm pretty shocked it's never come back. They even let you have some customization in what your level ups do for you. I didn't find myself exercising this feature since it was my first playthrough, but if you wanted to save up enough EXP to get an attack boost, magic gauge increase, or more max HP for every single level up, you can do that up to 7 times. It's such a natural way to make monster killing feel worthwhile. So I must ask again, why have they never brought this idea back? This game also introduced a shocking number of things that the franchise has embraced to this day, such as Ganon having the ability to be revived, the Triforce of Courage, a magic system, and some of the coolest recurring enemies like the Iron Knuckle and Dark Link. The sages from Ocarina of Time were even named after all the towns. I suppose since it is the second entry in a massively long-running series, it shouldn't be too surprising, but I didn't expect it since this game is just such a black sheep. It even had a pretty big impact outside of the series. If you're someone like me who grew up with Super Smash Bros. Melee, I want you to close your eyes right now and imagine the most iconic stage and song combination. Now, for everyone who just picked one of the F-Zero choices, nice. But I'm willing to guess a huge chunk of you picked Temple with the Temple music. And what are some of Link's most iconic attacks from that series to this day? Oh, I don't know, perhaps the upwards and downward stabs? all of this game, baby. On the topic of the soundtrack, I really didn't have high hopes going into it. I knew Temple was gonna rock, but overall, I'm pretty unsurprised that as an early Famicom game, it doesn't have much going on. At least the few songs that are here are pretty good, even if they don't stack up to the kings of the era like Mario 3. To my surprise, when you get to the end of Great Palace, there's no fight with Ganon waiting for you. I guess they really did need Link's blood to bring him back. Instead, you face off against the Thunderbird, some creature created by the King of Hyrule to protect the Triforce of Courage, and then Dark Link right after, who's actually the final boss in this entire game. He's also really easy to cheese. But upon your victory, you'll be able to use the Triforce to wake Zelda up, wake her up inside, and the day is saved. Why did I write that joke? Despite not even really being a Zelda fan, The Adventure of Link is maybe the most interesting game I've talked about so far. It's a game that plays nothing like what came before or really after. A game that's been referred to by its creator as a failure. A game that ends one branch of the massive Zelda timeline by stopping the main villain from being revived. In fact, I'm kind of realizing the game is so interesting, I barely talked about my actual opinion on it. In the end, I'm mixed. A lot of this game I found pretty damn frustrating, but my god, there is just something I find endlessly charming about it. While Breath of the Wild is still my favorite Zelda game by a mile, I think I can honestly make the seas-worthy statement that I liked it more than Ocarina and Majora. Would I recommend it? Yes? It comes with Nintendo Switch Online, which is how I played it, and it even has save states, so you can avoid dealing with too much NES-era horseshit if that's a sticking point for you, because there is plenty of that here. The game's not too much of a time sink, and it's also available on GBA, 3DS, Wii U. They really want you to give it a try, and I would say it's worth it if you have any interest in this very odd part of Zelda's history. If there's one thing I can say with absolute certainty, it's that I definitely want them to give this style another try someday. Hell, I'd even love to see them remake the CDI games and make them, you know, not shit. But for now, this is the only easily accessible way to experience that format, so do it. Explore that world, wake that Zelda, and make sure Ganon never returns. Wait a minute. Play that back. Oh my god. It all makes sense now. But how does Mike Tyson fit into the Zelda timeline?